Hey there everyone, Mazrock here, and today is So You Wanna Tank Tazavesh Streets. I'm going to be going over a run that I did last night on stream, talking about what the mobs do, what this is the very easiest of routes that you can do and pull off. I did this on my monk, but it's really not important which tank. You can do it on whichever one you want. So when you open up here, you're going to get these three mobs first before they open up the door. This Gate Warden Zomaz is probably the most dangerous of the bunch. When you start getting into higher keys, the Radiant Pulse starts to hurt a little bit, and you just want to make sure that you have some defensives kind of a little bit ready. As you see here, I got to a heavy stagger pretty quickly, so this guy does hurt, especially on fortified weeks. This is Sanguine, and I will admit right off the bat, some of my Sanguine management wasn't the best. It usually takes me a day or two to adapt to the affix itself. But yeah. So then when we come across here, you have the support officers, custom securities. This I like to double pull here. They spam Hyperlight Bolt, which is something that you want to watch out for. One, I think it is the specialists do the stasis beam cast that absolutely has to be kicked. It's something like the drain fluids in Necrotic Wake, so that's one thing that you want to watch out for. The hard light barrier is another one that you want to kick. It is a singular shield. It's not like the Staghorns in Mist of Tierna Scythe, where it puts a shield on everyone, but it does put a chunky shield on one of them. This can be purged off, so a Belfracial or, you know, an offensive purge is something that works very, very well there, and that won't be a problem. Sorry, my monk is probably like the worst tank that I could do this. I constantly move on the monk, and I very rarely actually stay still, so you're going to see some weird camera angles go along. Now, this is a pull here that I like to double, but be wary, because the Armed Overseer coming in here is not always the funnest to deal with, and you want to kind of work with a CC rotation or a kick rotation or whatever you have on the others, so that way things don't get out of hand, because these Armed Overseers here, what they do is they put a little beam splicer on the ground. You'll see it pop up right here. I move around way too much, and that beam splicer rotates around, and what happens there is if you stand in it, you take big old magic damage, so that's something that you absolutely want to watch out for. Another way to kind of get them out of everywhere is to use the corner to your advantage to kind of line of sight them and move them around. That's how I got them out of Sanguine, and to move them around and stuff. I was happy with him there, but somebody kicked him and made him run through Sanguine, but is what it is. It was a fun key. I mean, I think we still two-chested it. An absolute blast. I think I did save I wanted to save my Touch of Death for something here, but I don't remember what. But as you see, your room can get filled up quickly with those beam splicers, so that's something you want to watch out for. Next we have the Portal Mancer. This is the mini boss to activate the boss. I like to pull him first and then pull the relic pack. He does these Rift Blast. The kick that you want to kick is that right there. Now, it happens very, very quickly, so I'm just going to go back here 10 seconds just so I can show you. It happens right after it's the Empowered Glyph of Restraint. So what the Rift Blast do, and this is you want to kick, is he's going to put the Zymox portals on the ground. You want to get out of them because they hurt. The Empowered Glyph of Restraint puts a slow on like the whole group. That makes it harder to deal with. So this is your priority kick as a tank. You can let the DPS kick the Hyperlight Bolt spam, but as long as you take care of that, that's fine. The way that I deal with this as a tank is there's always going to be two portals on the ground, or two beams on the ground. You can stand in the newest one that's coming out, and then the moment the one goes off, you can move out of it. But so the Empowered Glyph of Restraint, this is something that you can solo kick as a tank, not a problem, but that should be your primary focus there. And I always try and keep them kind of near a wall, and try to keep, now they spawn randomly, but I try to keep them kind of facing towards the wall, letting the DPS stand still and not eating up whole sections of the room. This is just another custom security interrogation specialist mob pack. They're not too bad. They just have, like I said, those things that you want to kick. Stasis being the one that really hurts. Hyperlight barrier, offensive purge can take care of it. There is a stasis burn, a spark burn that kind of does hurt a little bit. It's not exactly the most fun thing in the world, but It's not the worst to deal with, especially if you're just learning the dungeons and getting up. Once you get into 20s, they start hurting a little bit more. So sorry, it is the morning. I filmed this last night, recorded this last night. So I am going to be drinking my coffee throughout this commentary. So Zofex is the first boss of the dungeon. He puts these, I'm going to call them Ravager because they're the Warrior Ravager abilities on the ground. You want to stay out of them. DPS, you're going to see them running around to pick up their weapons. This is not a tank mechanic. You don't got to worry about it. Although we were murdering this guy pretty quickly. But one of the things he does is Interrogation. He's going to pick one of your DPS, maybe healer as well, I'm not 100% sure. They need to run away, so you need to make sure that, you know, you're not dragging the boss closer to someone with the Interrogation. Now, he feign deathed it. It can be invised, it can be ice blocked, they're AMS'd for DKs. There's a few ways to get out of it. But as you see here, I'm trying to tank him near the middle of the room, and the reason why is this rotating shield, if you put him into a corner and that shield is facing outwards, almost none of your DPS can actually hit the boss. So that you kind of want to find whatever space you can within the middle of the room and kind of rotate around it. Now, any DPS that, you know, aren't complete turrets are going to try and rotate with you because it's just the easiest thing to do. This here is another Interrogation Specialist and Custom Security Pack. These are some of the little bit more weirder, harder mobs in the game, but it's very easy to get count in this dungeon, and you're going to get a lot of count in this dungeon basically from like the first part of this room and things like that. The next few pulls are a little bit more difficult, but it's a lot easier to get count in Streets than it was when the game first came out. Let me tell you that timer was tight. There you see I use Ring of Peace for some sanguine management. I was just having fun blasting. This is a 15. It was nothing too crazy. Spoiler alert at the end, I did not get a Codex of the First Technique, unfortunately. But it is what it is. So you just kind of want to make sure that, you know, you have these mobs to deal with. This is a fairly easy pack to deal with. The 2 armed overseers, they do hit a little hard, so make sure that you have some sort of defensives ready for the proxy strikes, but they each drop a beam splicer. So the easiest way to do is I like to pull them out of the room. So here, not out of the room. I like to pull them back a little bit, giving you access to the doorway a little bit. Once the beam splicer comes out, I'll turn around and start pulling them outside, giving us a maximum amount of room to kind of maneuver and work around. Gives the range, you know, the ability to kind of get in the spot and actually do some blasting and stuff like that while we move out. But really, they're not too bad if you know how to deal with them. Up next is a few series of mini bosses. I like going to the left. So Tracker Zorkaz is he's fairly easy as long as you can manage his debuff. So what it is he puts down a splicer. You want to go down the opposite end of the splicer, but he does root you. So you want to make sure that you're out of the splicer during that route. Now you can Tiger's Lust it, Freedom. There's a couple other things that you can do to get out of it, like Druids can Shapeshift, for example. But one thing I want you to notice is this circle here. So if you have, number one, if you have a DPS that's lagging behind, you can actually just start the encounter. He'll put up the circle and drag everyone in, but you can't leave this circle because he's just going to drag you right back to him. You see those lines? So as you see here, I'm tanking, the beam slicer comes down. I go to the opposite side of the most recent beam slicer. You're going to do some sort of zigzag pattern for most of the time, depending on where your DPS are standing, but you just gotta work out with it. But aside from that, he's not too difficult. He doesn't hit down. This mini mod is all about positioning. So once the beam slicer comes down, you move to the opposite and just make sure that you're not hitting anything by the beam splicers. Now the 2 Ancient Core Hounds coming up next have a very important kick. Now the Lava Breath hits fairly hard, especially when they both do it at once. I think I actually screwed up my kick here. Yeah, so we're going to get this Ancient Dread cast. If you see here, this is going to like reduce your haste. I have minus 41% haste right now. That's not something you want, but it is a curse, so it can be decursed, but we did not bring a decurse into the dungeon at all. So this is going to go a little bit slower for us than usual, but one of the things that you need to remember with these two mobs is they need to die within like 5 seconds of each other, or the one that died first is going to res at full health. This is kind of like the Angels and Spires of Ascension. But the cast that you absolutely want to kick is that Ancient Dread. You should absolutely work out some sort of kick management for that, especially if you don't have a decurse. But there they died together. Perfect. Up next is the Enraged Direhorn. This is very easy to tank. He does a charge stun attack, but as you see here, our ranged are over there in the back, just dealing damage, because what happens is you can line of sight the charge. Sorry. He does a Wild Thrash, which can hurt, so that's the Frenzied Charge, yeah. He does a Wild Thrash, which can hurt, but it's not too bad. If you just have a minor defensive for it, you should be fine. It's a very short cast. It's not like the length of the Tantrum in Theater of Pain or anything, but all in all, this is not too bad of a mob to deal with, and they do deal decent count. Up next are the cats, the kitty cats. The Frenzied Nightclaws, you grab all these up. There is a relic pack here. This is a good spot to get a lot of damage in. As you see here, our monk is just blasting away, hitting almost 60k at his peak, but very easy, fairly easy to deal with. Although they do hit a little bit harder on fortified weeks and higher keys, so this might be something, again, a minor defensive. Is something that you're going to want to watch out for there. I did hit a heavy stagger once, but it was not enough to make me worry. All in all, this is kind of an okay pack. Up next, I go to the second boss in this order here. You can, if you so choose, to do the mob that's kind of along the path to the left, if you just kind of do the regular hook before while starting this this RP. Unfortunately, this is one of the major downsides of the dungeon for me, which can kind of kill momentum if you're not paying attention to kind of how your group's going, because I think the RP here is incredibly too long. I do not think it is required at all to be this long, but that is what it is. So this boss here is actually 3 bosses. The first one, Alcrux, is a little bit more about positioning and staying out of the bad. It's kind of your basic stay out of the bad boss. He's going to do a ground-based circle around him right here. Grip of Hunger, you don't want to be in it. Get out, plain and simple. The next thing he's going to do is he's going to fill up the room with these circles that you want to be out, but the entire room is going to be filled out. So he's going to do them in 2 phases. So as you see there, 1, you have to remember where there was empty ones, and then go in those. You go in the empty ones, and then when the first ones go away, that's when you move into. But it's fairly easy tank and spank. Acolyte has a few mechanics you want to watch out for. He's got Purification Protocol. This is a healer mechanic that can be dispelled. Just don't be in them, basically. And then he has this Flagellation Protocol. This can be purged off offensively, and then you want to kick it because that does deal quite a bit of damage. Now, as you see here, I go into this corner there because when he does this Venting Protocol, if he dies within the corner here, in this little door frame, a lot of those little orbs are going to just stay there, and it's going to leave you with a lot of floor space, because those orbs, anybody that has the Gluttony buff can collect the orbs, vacuum them up for a damage buff. But if you do not have that buff, you gain a damage debuff. So that's one thing that you absolutely want to be watching out for. Now, I had Venza, here we have a hunter. I said, hey, can you misdirect her to me? She does a few mechanics that you want to watch out for. Number 1 is Chains of Freedom. Can be Freedom, can be Tiger's Lust. But basically anybody with that chain debuff is going to get sucked in by this Whirling Annihilation, which is a Bladestorm ability that sucks everybody in the whole room. So this can be glided off by Demon Hunters, but you want to watch out for that. As you see here, I have 11 stacks of this debuff, and they keep pooling in, and we have a lot of floor space to work with. But aside from that, it's fairly easy. Stay out of the Whirling Annihilation and help out with the Chains of Domination wherever you can. and work your way through there. On higher keys, it gets a little bit more difficult, just due to you know, her living longer and things like that. And that Whirling Annihilation can really start hurting quite a bit. We did things a little bit differently here. So what we did here is, not on this mob here, but we pull this. We actually ended up getting Woe, I think, completely by accident. So we utilize Woe for the skip here just because, but these Market Peacekeepers will actually teleport to range and then come in, making them a little bit more difficult to manage, as you see here. They one of the Peacekeepers just went off. One of the Phalanx Shields here, so this is one of their casts that they do. Excuse me. You want to watch out for that. Now the Peacekeepers are coming back in, right? Because they're rushing towards the range mob, our range party member. The Phalanx Shield, you want to try and CC off as fast as possible, because after a while, I think it's like halfway through the cast or a third of the way through the cast, they can no longer be CC'd, and it's a damage reduction, so that's not something that you want to have go off for too long, but it is CCable in the first little bit. I've just noticed if I tried like stunning them past that third way through the cast, it's just not doable. So here we have Woe. We're going to skip straight to the mailroom. I do believe our monk DPS is going to run off and start the RP in the bazaar. Well, I get this portal here. This is one of the only portals that you really want to get. So if you die, you can go back to the first boss room, get portals. Easy peasy. So one of the things here is you're going to see this defective sorter right here. He's going to run to one of these little things. He's going to cast Open Cage. You want to stun or CC him out of that, because they release little stun chickens that I call, that, you know, you can't target, you can't kill, and they just stun you like every 3-4 seconds for a second or two. It's an absolutely annoying mess. Aside from that, most of these are kind of fairly easy to deal with. There's nothing too crazy there. Now these overloaded male mentals, now that you see this little bubble that comes up, that is a 50% haste buff for standing in it. Not really great on Sanguine weeks, but you can utilize this, and Warlocks can banish this. So if you want to save one of these male elementals to start the pull against the boss, you can. And start with a nice big haste buff on top of, you know, lusting and things like that, because this is definitely one that you want to save lust for. It does have a lot of mechanics that the longer this fight goes on, the worse it gets. But it's really not too bad. The defective sorters, this man, like, it's... Didn't put my Ring of Peace as much as I wanted to, and we're getting some healing from the male mental. Like I said, it was a late night key. It was fun, but it definitely was not my best. And obviously he wanted to run back into the Sanguine. I've never seen a mob do that before. He wanted to run back into the Sanguine. So we found that pretty funny, but again, you just want to make sure that these stun chickens don't get out, because they are hyper annoying and just not fun to deal with. Now we did get one of the smuggled creatures come out, so there was one of the open cages cast that went off around here, but this one here is not too bad. The first ones with the large amount of chickens are just really annoying. So that's what you just kind of want to make sure that you deal with pretty quickly. You can deal with that as a tank. You can DK, grip them away, Ring of Peace, stun. You've got tools at your disposal to deal with what you have. Here I Ring of Peace, having forgot that the male mentals can be Ring of Peace out of Sanguine, so I did it way too early. But not every key you play is perfect, and I was having fun blasting on Brew. And then here as well, the defective sorters are again what you want to watch out for. That the open cage cast is really super important to take care of. And like I said earlier, if you want to kind of have the male mentals banished so they become immune to damage, and get that 50% buff for the boss, you can do that. Probably not great on Sanguine weeks, because if you look here, the Sanguine pretty much takes over the whole thing, so you really can't even stand in it that much. Not fun, but is what it is. So now this boss here, this is one that on Tyrannical weeks can really start kind of ruining the progress of your key if you don't play it right. So number one, this Hazardous Liquids cast. These pools here, you want to soak as many of them as possible, because they're going to start leaving ground circles that we did not manage that great around, that kind of start taking up the space in the room, which sucks. This cast here is something that you need to soak. It can be immune. I do want to post that. This boss is dying like insanely quickly. But it can be immune, so it can be feigned death, ice blocked, bubbled, all of that fun stuff. So if you see someone running off with it, they might just be immuning it. So watch out if they're, you don't need to rush in and die if they're just taking care of it themselves. Up next is the Unstable's Goods cast, which he's going to start putting out these little briefcases. This is the mechanic that kind of starts hurting. Now here I thought I actually grabbed this, but that's what happened. The Paladin grabbed it just before me. I should have put down a monk portal, but whatever. So what's going to happen is one of these 4 portals around the room, 1, 2, 3, 4, the one that's open is going to open. You're going to see letters flying up. You need to throw the briefcase in that portal so it goes up and doesn't explode. These deal a lot of damage, but you do have significant time to deal with them. I think it's like 30 seconds, but you absolutely want to make sure that you do that. And what can happen is once you get a second and third phase of this, here we just decided, hey, ignore pretty much everything on the ground, just blast, because we're not going to be getting a second one, but that's a burn call by me. But what's going to happen is the second time that you get those briefcases, you can actually, when you put in 3 or 4 of them, the vent that's open will change. So you need to be aware. You do not, and this is very important, do not throw the briefcase on the ground. It can be thrown to another player, but if it hits the ground, it explodes. Do not do that. Very important. So actually, I think it was our hunter that did it. So here we're going to do the RP at the bazaar here, which is basically there is an item that grabs. I have a weak ore that tells me where it goes, like who it goes to, not exactly where it goes. But here we had our monk, who's very, very quick, and has done this. He's a great DPS player that knows the mechanics very, very well. So we just basically run around there. I paralyze the Bazaar Strongman. This is really the only mob that actually you have to worry about. He will fixate on whoever has the item that you're going in to trade. So you want to make sure that you slow him, stun him, frost trap him, whatever you have to do. But a little thing is if the DPS player is getting a little bit too close to him, he can drop the item wherever, and the Bazaar Strongman will start fixating whoever has threat, which should be you as the tank. So something to keep in mind. So there, Paralyze went off, and we're going to get the Strongman coming up right there, because I had already entered combat with him. So I monk taunted him, and then the Windwalker monk taunted him back. And he realized that my monk was still on, my taunt was still on cooldown, so he was like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. But yeah, very easy to deal with. Nothing too crazy at all. This is just someone that you want to have someone that can do the RP running, or you can at least work as a group to kind of get it done, but it's a little bit more. This can slow a key down if you don't get it right. So here I put down a monk portal at the top. Warlock gate from the top to bottom just saves a couple of seconds in running around. Very, very smart to do. So the music boss. This is a 3-phase fight. So what you want to do here is, so you each grab an instrument. The horn is typically the tank one. The 3 DPS ones are here, and the drums are typically reserved for the healer. But Mistweavers, if you're fist weaving, and Holy Paladins should get one of the DPS ones. Well, one of the ranged that doesn't need to really worry about being in melee should take the drums in his stead. And the reason why is Holy Paladins need Holy Power to heal, and you can't generate Holy Power, well, not in melee. Plain and simple. So if you're wondering why a Holy Paladin's taking one of these DPS ones, it's because they'd like to heal you. We've gotten into this argument before. I've run a ton of streets. So basically, what's going to happen here is these 3 little music notes are going to come around. You click your button. You start getting a stacking buff. Once you hit 12 of these, you're going to get a 40-second buff that's going to increase your damage and all of the fun stuff. I think it's like 15% haste or something for a little bit. But then these 4 ads are going to come around. The Oasis Security has a cast that you absolutely want to kick called Menacing Shout. This one here, this is going to be your prio to kick. But one of the Disruptive Patron here is going to cast Teleport. It is annoying because they teleport to one of the corners and then they just start casting. So what you want to do, preferably, is have someone stun them. We thought we had a sweeping kicks go off by the monk, or one of the stuns from the Shadow Fury from the Warlock, but that just kind of didn't happen. It's not the end of the world. You're going to see green swirlies on the ground. That's rotten food. Don't hit that. It sucks. Now, as you see here, my buff refreshed from hitting the notes again. So all you need to do is hit one more sets of notes, and then you get the buff back for 40 seconds. Getting threat here can be a little troublesome just because the two packs kind of start far away from each other. But it's the same thing. Menacing Shout. Make sure the teleport doesn't really go off too much or anything. Avoid the rotten food. Kill as fast as possible to keep your buff going. Really, it's not the most complicated thing in the world, but the longer these things live, they do get enraged after a while, and they do start trucking. The Oasis Security does do a security slam, which can hurt a little bit, especially if you're a little undergeared for the content you're doing, so you might want a defensive there, but that's kind of, you're going to have to feel that one out. Up next, you're going to do another round of the buffs, and then the boss is going to come out. This boss is a little bit of a time killer, but is not too complicated at all, especially because you do get that 50% damage buff that you start with off the start. And then he's going to come out with the relics. He's going to do that security slam there. Does hurt a little bit, especially on higher tyrannical keys, and he does do the menacing shout cast, which you want to kick. He also does this Suppression Spark, which puts a circle on the ground, sucks everyone in. Music notes do come out. So what you want to do there is, for some odd reason, it didn't work there for me, but you want to hit your instrument again to prolong your buff and then move out. The DPS, and the reason why the DPS take the 3 that are there is that theirs is a straight line that gives them like the guitar knee slide or whatever, the guitar slide, and moves them out of the Suppression Spark, where you can just use the horn and kind of take it. It's really not too bad at all, but just watch out for that. He also does do a security slam. I don't even think we had a chance. I think we just murdered him way too quickly. But he also does a frontal block that you need to move behind him, and it will push everybody back that is in front of it, and he takes no damage if you're in front of him. So that's something you do want to watch out for there. Aside from that, it's rinse and repeat. Really nothing too bad at all. After this point here, now my camera is covering it. I'm sorry, the count. Now what I do here is I would imprison this Peacekeeper here. We have our count, we're fine. So I paralyze it in Ring of Peace so we can go around. I want to see, at some point someone got threat because something happened. Okay, it went around. But this mini boss here, Commander Zofar, is going to fill the room with shock mines and do a power kick. So as you see here, I keep my back to this. There are a few spots like within these corners where you won't get shoved back at all, but I just want, you have to have your back to a wall or you're going to get kicked into oblivion and pull more mobs, and that's exactly what you do not want to do. The DPS have a mechanic here that it tethers people. They can go behind here and actually still do all of the damage and stuff that they have to do. Oh, he ended up potting. But yeah, so there I went into a shock mine. It stuns, it sucks, it's not fun. DKs, you can AMS and Icebound Fortitude these, but you still take the damage, so just watch out for that. You take the damage with Icebound Fortitude, but not AMS. So here at some point, we got the Peacekeeper is going to aggro someone. Okay, so some people do go up. That mob trucks a little bit. You want to watch out. So here we just had to deal with this Peacekeeper again. It was unfortunate. The paralyze wore off. Someone got a little bit too close and aggroed him. Really not the end of the world. They're going to jump down and take care of it. We have 13 minutes left on our timer with one boss. So the guys, the people that went up there, Valiant Shield, I paralyze it. He started the RP on the last boss and then went from there. But all in all, there's a lot of dangerous things in this dungeon that can occur that just require a little bit of pre-planning, or, you know, just things to watch out for, like, you know, things like the stun chickens. That can get things going out of hand pretty quickly if you're not careful, and if you don't watch out, like nobody wants to burn cooldowns on this guy because the boss is coming up. But then you take the portal up, and then you have the last boss of Tazavesh Streets of Wonder. All in all, I really, really like this dungeon. I thought the nerfs were warranted, and then now it's really, really fun. There's a lot of dangerous things that can occur, but is indeed really, really fun. So here, this boss here will spawn 6 portals, each correlating to their shapes. Square goes to square, triangle goes to triangle, circle goes to circle. As the fight goes on at 70 and 40%, he is going to divide the room into quadrants. So here he's going to do one of his main abilities called Shuri. This ground-based circle is going to come around. If you've rated Zymox, you know exactly what it is. You need to teleport through it. So here we're going to call for circle very, very quickly and go through it. He doesn't do any real tank busters that you have to worry about, aside from double technique. So here we hit that 70% marker. He's going to divide the room into half, and then he's going to divide the room into quadrants. So here I'm going to go run into triangle. Now the double technique cast. Now if you're trying to min-max this as much as possible, while he's casting double technique, he's not doing anything else. He's not a danger to the party. He stays still. He doesn't do his quick draw ability or whatever where he bounces around. It's easy DPS, so you want to hold on to kicking as fast as possible. Now, the longer you take to kick the first one, he's gonna cast the second one faster. So typically the goal here, if you're trying to min-max this, is to kick the first one at about 25 to 50%, and then hold on to the second. So as you saw there, I almost let the entire cast go off and just not have to worry about it at all. But this is basically a rinse and repeat fight. After this, he's going to start casting more Shuris, which means you're going to have to start going across the room a lot quicker. But this is all about knowing your portal management. So here we're waiting until the circle gets to square, and then we're going to rush into square. But don't always think that you have the time to wait, because these portals do move around. So you want to watch out for that. But aside from that, you just want to make sure that you're kicking. You've got a kick rotation for the double technique going. The quick blade cast can really be annoying as he jumps away from the tanks and just kind of makes it so you can't DPS as much. Not as fun. This is the fight where I definitely lose Dancing Rune Weapon on my Blood Death Knight a lot. Is what it is. I think he's going to cast Shuri here as well, but I just touch a death him at the end, and then boom, that is done. So what did I get here? I got absolutely nothing. So that is Tazavesh Streets. I hope you enjoyed this series so far. I am going to be putting a Gambit out very, very soon, so do watch out for that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, if you have any more questions on Tazavesh Streets, if something else I didn't cover, something weird happens in your keys, talk to me about it. Let me know. Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to help you out with that. But yeah, like I said, the Gambit 1's coming out. Please like, comment, subscribe. 2K is the goal for the end of the month. You guys have been absolutely blowing me away with all of the support. I think we can get to 2K subs by June 1st. I really think, but I need your guys' help for that. Twitch stream link down below, as well as the community Discord link. Any weak auras, LVY profiles, anything like that you like are also in that Discord link down below. Thank you very much for listening. Have yourselves a good day, and happy tanking.